In a meta of Monarchs and Cyber Dragon Beatdown decks, Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2007, in comparison to what it is now in 2020, was a pretty diverse game. That is until Shonen Jump Volume 5 Issue 4 was released, and no, it's not because of the awesome manga those magazines used to produce. It's actually because Konami decided to release one of the most soon-to-be hated cards in their R&D department, Elemental Hero Stratos. In this video, you will find a complete breakdown on the competitive history of Elemental Hero Stratos and obtain a good understanding on how it got banned. So, like I always say, let's get into it. Without further ado, let's begin. February 2007 Shonen Jump Championships St. Louis was the first event Elemental Hero Stratos was released via Jump promotion, and word on the street is the card was going for of cash, ranging anywhere from $38 on the low end all the way up to $150 on the high end. Now, some of you might ask, why was this card so much? What was all the hype behind Stratos being released, despite the fact of a lack of a dueling book and Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene we have today? Well, in the olden days, we did have the internet, and the Pojo forums was huge back then when players from the OCG chiming in with their meta breakdowns from time to time. When Stratos was released in the OCG, the deck known as Airblade Turbo became almost, if not tier 0 status. Now, the thing about this was back in the early days of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up as a preteen/teen, in the early 2000s, not everyone had access to the internet. And those who did, believe it or not, was kind of ignorant to the knowledge you can gain from it outside of playing video games. Not everybody, but a lot of people were. So knowing what to search for and where to search at wasn't something that was common amongst most players, mainly only pros or tech savvy people at the time. Also, even though back in the day we didn't have a dueling book, we had another similar program called YVD, or formerly known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Virtual Desktop. So players who knew about these tools definitely tested Airblade Turbo out prior to the event, giving them a huge advantage against most. With that type of experience they gained from playtesting prior to the event, they gave the deck a pretty much similar hype in comparison to how players play with decks on Dueling Book and go to events. Going into the event, Airblade Turbo powered with 3 Elemental Hero Stratos definitely, as expected, dominated that event, with players from my hometown, Chicago, topping the event, and one player, Carlos Perez, definitely a Chicago legend of his time, winning said event with his teammate, a good friend of mine named Miguel Albaron, making top 8, only losing to his fellow teammate who won the event, Carlos Perez. The deck Airblade Turbo was one of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s first combo decks that OTK in a timely manner, usually if not by turn 1, definitely by turn 2 or 3. The deck obtained such speed by taking advantage of cards like Reasoning, Monster Gate, Destiny Hero Malicious, Destiny Hero Diamond Dude, and Dimension Fusion, which is a card currently still on the ban list today, and for good reason. Dimension Fusion's effect pretty much reads pay 2,000 life points and both players special summons monsters from the Banish pile, which in thus comboed with another popular card used today, Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, allow the player using Airblade Turbo to do just what the name says, Turbo. And even though this deck was a combo deck that relied on other cards like Destiny Hero Malicious to function properly, no one can doubt the fact that Stratos is the main reason this deck functions so well and consistent. The ability to search out Mally and pop potential back row when special summon back from the either player's graveyard or managed zone made his deck way ahead of his time, which caused immediately for a ban list hit for Stratos 3 weeks after this event. The ban list was created with an attempt to destroy the Airblade Turbo deck, limiting key cards like Elemental Hero Stratos and Dimension Fusion down to 1. Just like now in the 2020s, Konami back then seemed to only give the deck a slap on the wrist, because even with one Stratos and Dimension Fusion, this gave birth to another popular version of the deck, the famous Diamond Dude Turbo, which was literally just a watered down version of Airblade Turbo, but still was powerful enough to terrorize the meta, along with being used and abused in DDT. E-Heroes at this time was used in a multitude of decks, from J-Hero, T-Hero, Perfect Circle Monarch, a multitude of decks outside of this. And one thing the March 2007 ban list did was make, in a sense, a diverse format. And with other good decks on the rise like Gadgets and Dark World, Stratos engine type of decks would have a run for their money. With Konami successfully crippling the Airblade Turbo deck, Stratos floated around the meta for the next year, that is until the rise of the Dark Arm Dragon. I think every competitive player would agree who was around during the dad days would say Dark Arm Dragon is one of the most influential decks of all time, considering it was one of the TCG's first ever expensive decks going into the 1000s. And a key piece of this deck was Stratos, alongside with Destiny Hero Militias. Now, while Militias arguably played a bigger role in this deck, I think it's fair to say the consistency Stratos added to the deck by netting you a Mally to combo off with was insane. But like every other broken deck, Dark Arm Dragon would have to be taken down by the ban list, being the tier 0 deck it was, leaving Stratos and Hero Fanatics once again to float around the meta into the early 2010s, more specifically 2012, the year Stratos finally got banned. Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2012 holds a special place in my heart, because that is the year I officially got back into the game from playing the infamous Naruto CCG. Coming into 2012, the best decks of that time was Plant Synchro, Hero XYZ, Wind-Ups, Insector, and eventually Chaos Dragons. The hero deck of this time, needless to say, obviously abused Element Hero Stratos. A famous combo hero players of this time would use was Summon Stratos, grab Bobaman, set their hand, XYZ into Blade Armor Ninja, and OTK. Me at this time, however, while a fan of the deck, I had my nose up the butt of Wind-Ups and following OCG meta trends. But many people have showed me the sauce with heroes, mainly the younger crowd. I remember going to regionals and with Wind-Ups and always feared playing against heroes for the fear of a super poly and a quick hero lives OTK with Stratos, due to the meta being absolutely toxic at this time. But the fact that Heroes as a deck did well going into nationals were a good friend of mine who I just call Q, and no, not random Q who you guys have seen in my vlogs, but my younger homie Q who you guys have seen in my regional vlogs. Back in 2012, we traveled to nationals together, and if memory serves me right, he was the only hero player that made it top 64, sitting at table 1 going into the final round. But sadly, losing in top 64, my homie would always brag about how good Stratos was for the deck and how he wished it would come back to 3. But no, after that, Stratos actually was banned going into the next format, and Heroes as a deck would die down into 2015, the release of Mass Hero Structure deck. Stratos went on for years after this, only to stay on the ban list, even when the hero deck wasn't really relevant outside of being tier 1.5, and some may even argue tier 2 to tier 2.5, which spawned the memes, "Free my Ninja Stratos." That was until 2018 when Stratos finally got released off the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list to 1 and slowly to 3. Fast forward to today, Stratos is exclusively only used in the hero deck, piloted by many fans of the archetype. But a question still ponders: why was Stratos banned for so long, especially with the hero structure deck being released in 2015? And the only possible answer is Konami had a fear that the hero engine would be abused again, because in 2015, if Stratos have come off the ban list like it was in the OCG, the hero deck definitely would have been a tier 1 deck like it was in its OCG counterpart. What I personally think, and maybe this will turn into a separate video, I think with 2 separate ban lists, whoever is at the top of the decision making for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG decided to just experiment with cards to see the different interactions of different metas on 2 separate ban lists between TCG and OCG. But that's a video for a different future. So guys, this was the history of Elemental Hero Stratos thus far. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're new here and you guys want more videos like this, make sure to share the video and leave a comment telling me what kind of video you guys would like for me to go over next. Alright guys, as I always tell you guys, peace guys and stay innovative. Deuces, and you guys have a great day.